Hi, my name is Jessie. My project is Which Factors Inhibit Yeast Growth? This project relates to the UN Sustainable Development Goals because yeast are useful in making fermented foods, in treating wastewater, and producing biofuel. However, some yeast can cause food spoilage and yeast infections, so it's important to learn how to inhibit their growth as well. Yeast can be used to model mechanisms in bacteria, making them useful to study. Overall, by studying yeast, we can reduce inequalities between less developed versus more developed countries. Through alcoholic fermentation, yeast break down carbohydrates, such as glucose, into ethanol and carbon dioxide. The yeast growth phases are shown below. They are lag, log or exponential phase, stationary, and death phase. The variables I tested were temperature, pH, herbs, citric acid, and sugar concentration. What I measured was the volume of carbon dioxide produced. Through water displacement method, I found the volume of carbon dioxide that was produced. Using clear vinyl tubing, I connected the flask to the test tube. First, I found the optimal temperature, which was 37 degrees Celsius. Then I looked at how sugar concentration affected growth. I found that increasing sugar concentration promotes growth. On the other hand, increasing citric acid concentration and just citric acid in general inhibits yeast growth because citric acid is an inhibitor. All the different herbs I tested promoted growth. A likely reason for this is that all the herbs had carbohydrates and in larger quantities than the active ingredient that is antifungal. Therefore, having more carbohydrates will have more substrates or food for the yeast. Increasing the amount of food will lead to more growth for the yeast. In conclusion, I found that inhibiting yeast growth requires lower temperatures, lower amounts of substrates, pH 10 and above, and citric acid, while you can promote growth with 37 degrees Celsius, pH 6 and 8, and higher sugar concentrations. It's important to note that in any research project, there is often a lot of trial and error. One example of this is that in my experiment, some of the gas was escaping and it was difficult for some of the gas to travel up the test tube due to the water pressure in the tubing. And to minimize this problem, I attached a hypodermic needle to the end of the tubing, and that reduced the amount of water entering the tubing. Another problem was that when I first filled the test tube completely with water, some of that water went back into the tubing, and to solve this problem, I kept 5 milliliters empty in the test tube. In the future, I'd like to look at all powder versus all fresh ingredients and whether that affects the potency. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you learned something new.